And this one is kind of going to transcend this transfer. And I want to speak about Liverpool a little bit more in depth because obviously they drew to Everton. They drew to Everton over the weekend, and in the most exciting 0-0 draw I've seen in a very long time. But what Liverpool has changed is quite concerning, I think, because everyone expected Liverpool to just come out of the blocks firing like they did last season, like they did the year before, like they did the year before that. They just kind of go on their way to be very good, which we all thought they would be. But they started Carvalho and Harvey Elliott in central midfield against Everton. And this right now sparked not alarm bells, but kind of like a light bulb moment in my brain was like, oh right, they're changing system big time. They're changing system massively here. Because what we've seen from Liverpool is similar to what we see from Chelsea, but different. Is with Liverpool, it's wing back heavy in terms of their creative output. So their creative output doesn't come from midfielders, generally. Generally doesn't come from midfielders. You have a very robust system of Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago. Thiago, yeah, he's your most creative midfielder there, but he's more deep creation in terms of pass to the assist type operator. Doesn't really get a lot of assists, gets the pass to the assist, starts the move. He's like a point guard in basketball. Like a point guard in basketball. Just starts the moves, right? Well, it's not an exact comparison. It's similar. He's like a defensive anchor, but like an offensive anchor at the same time. Doesn't really get a lot of assists. Isn't creative in the final third. He's creative in the middle third to get to the final third. You have Henderson, who's really only there to just support Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's his role, and because he's the captain as well. But that's really his role, just to support Alexander-Arnold. And Fabinho is your number 6. Your holding midfielder does all the holding midfielder stuff. Right. Then you have Keita, who is a little bit more offensive, a little bit more of your traditional number 8. And he's the one that if Liverpool ever get into a little bit of strife, I think he's the one that they can bring on to add a little bit of creativity, add a little bit of spark to their team. I think last season their best midfield had Keita in it. It was Fabinho, Keita, Thiago. That was based off the fact that when Liverpool were put teams on the back foot, it's very hard for that team to kind of overturn that in a sense. And kind of get themselves on the front foot. When Liverpool press straight away and really get on the front foot early, teams crumble. And we saw that. I mean, we saw that with City last year in the FA Cup semi-final, I think it was 3-0 half-time, game over, right? Because they just pushed them from the go. That's probably that's the way Liverpool play their best football, I think. And then you had Harvey Elliott, who got injured last season, very unfortunately. And then you have Milner, who's similar to just... Milner's Milner, right? He's like Henderson, but he's not. But he's like Fabinho, but he's not. You know what I mean? Right. So now, anyway, that's what they did last year. And what happens when you have this type of midfield is that you need heavy creative output from your wing-backs, which is what Liverpool are probably the best in the world at having. Trent, Robbo, unreal, right? And then with that, you need forwards that can just create. Salah, one of the best players, if not the best player in the world for periods of last season. Mane, brilliant. Firmino, great. Jota, really good finisher. They brought in Diaz in January. January hit the ground running and really added a little bit of a different dynamic. And then you had your Minaminos and these guys coming off the bench, etc. Now, that was Liverpool last season. Liverpool this season, different team. Yes, injuries haven't helped, but when they started Fabinho and Carvalho and Harvey Elliott in midfield, I thought, okay, they're changing the system here. They want to become more of a total team, in a sense. What I mean by that is that they want to get more offensive output from their midfielders. Now, this, and I credit Dr. Benji from what I'm about to say. He said this on his stream last night. When you play, just bear with me, right? When you play Football Manager, people who play Football Manager, right? When you lose the league, 3 out of 4 years, when you're this close to getting it, and you miss out by a point, by goal difference, by whatever, the temptation to just rip everything up and start fresh is there. I think that's what Klopp has done. I don't think he's ripped everything up. I think he's taken the tactics board from last year and has changed about 60% of it. Because I think he just felt that something has had to change. And in the attempt to change something, and in the attempt to try and bridge that gap between him and City, it's almost going to push them further back. And it's almost going to have them struggle a little bit more while they find their feet. Now, what I mean by this, and this is why I'm going to touch on the Arthur signing a little bit later, I don't think they should have signed Arthur. I think this shows the not panic, but the confusion with the Arthur signing. Because when you're changing the way you play, they're changing the way they play into a more complete team. What I mean by that is they're trying to get more from their midfielders. They're trying to become more of a creative team, in a sense. That's why you're seeing, that's why obviously Nunez was signed, because having that focal point, funnily enough, removing a creative player from the front line and adding a focal point can actually make your team more creative, like we've seen with City this season. City this season look 10 times more creative because there's no emphasis on the whole front line to score goals, whereas when you have Haaland there, when you have Nunez there, the emphasis is on them to score goals, which gives a little bit more freedom to the wide players and to the midfielders, gives them more license to be a little bit more creative, have a little bit more flair. So the reason they signed, the Arthur signing for me baffles me. Absolutely baffles me. I tweeted about this. I was like, it's a very meh signing. It's a meh. Like, yeah, he's okay. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, this is bizarre. And and when I watched the game on the weekend, I was like, where's Arthur going to fit in this team? Now, if you bring up his FBref, there we go. These are his passing stats. Now, from last year. Ignore maybe from where am I here? This is doing it weird from doing it in reverse. But if you're watching on YouTube, ignore from here up. So from where it says pass completion percentage long, up, that just means that when he passes well, right? That doesn't really mean a whole lot. What we're looking for is from that down. And there's only one, maybe two stats that really stand out to me. And that's passes into the final third and progressive passes. 5.12, 7.39. Not respectively, the other way around. This shows exactly what Thiago offered last season for Liverpool. A player to sit in the middle third and play the balls forward. Play passes forward and play passes into the final third. That is what this new Liverpool team does not need. This new Liverpool team does not need Arthur. It does not. This new Liverpool team needs someone like a Lovro Maia, who I flagged in January. I mean, not in January, this season, this summer transfer window. Go back and watch. There's a clip on the YouTube channel. When I speak about Lovro Maia, he's exactly what Liverpool need. He's an aggressive number 8 who's very willing to go forward, willing to create, has flair, can play on the wing, plays on the right-hand side predominantly, but he's more progressive with the ball at his feet, likes to drive forward, and he's more creative. He would have linked up well with Nunez, and Salah and these type of players. This is just such a he'll play. Like, Arthur will play. You won't really notice him. He won't do anything, but he won't stuff up because he's good. He's good, but he won't do anything that great because he's not great. Like, he's just he will just be there, and this Liverpool's concerning me a little bit. Even with Chelsea are concerning me as well. But Liverpool are kind of almost at a crossroads where they need to fix it real quick. And unless they're gonna go back to what they did last season, which I think will work. I think the more the season goes on, the more I was wrong about Sadio Mane, the more his departure actually is quite impactful for Liverpool. But yeah, it's going to be a very fascinating couple of weeks, because Arthur for me is a slightly worse version of Thiago, and when you have a slightly worse version of Thiago, you have even less creativity in terms of final third creativity, and it's just going to be lacking something. It's going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting to see. But yeah, Liverpool are on the edge. They're on the edge, and I don't think the Arthur signing will help them as much as a signing on deadline day would need to help, because deadline day screams panic. Deadline day screams impact. Just get the player that will impact us the most. Arthur won't have as much. Arthur will have. I would go as far as to say Arthur will have a little to no impact on Liverpool season. He won't even be mentioned this time next year as a player that's played for Liverpool. His injury record isn't great, but just as a player, he's so meh, and he's so not what Liverpool need. It's ridiculous, actually. But yeah, as I refresh my voice. But yeah, they're my just 2 cents on Liverpool, because I do think they'll do well. I do think they'll finish in the top 4, no worries. They'll probably still end up finishing second somehow. But there's just something they're missing. I hope they fix it. I really do, because I like Liverpool. I do like Liverpool. I hope they fix it, because I like Klopp, like Salah, Trent, Van Dijk. I like their players. I like the club. Yeah, I think they should fix it. I hope they do, because they've been so good for so long without having the ultimate reward. But yeah, let's move on, and let's get into the final third.